other employers, it's mostly other employers, almost exclusively other employers, to provide paid work for youth in the program. And so here's what we found. This is pretty good. 90% of youth who participated, who signed up, were successful in getting a paid internship. 90%. That's not perfect, but that's pretty darn good, because when you have youth who move or who refuse service or in some cases get arrested or whatever happens, some youth aren't going to stick with the program. But 90%, those who enroll, get a job. So compare that with the NLTS2 data, which says that now about 60% of youth with disabilities experience work, leave school work, give or take a few percentages, right, Renee? And it varies according to the disability type also. In this study and in this program, it served people with any disability who were receiving special education services, so it includes the so-called high-incidence disabilities, learning disabilities, and emotional disabilities, mental health disabilities, youth with intellectual disabilities who are on a certificate track or are not going to receive diplomas, youth with sensory and physical disabilities also. And that what we found in the research was that irregardless of their disability label, the success rate in these internships was equal across the board, regardless of the disability label. So that's pretty good. I mean, that suggests that, first of all, work is possible. Second of all, that if you have a program that targets a specific work experience as an adjunct to their education experience, students are going to benefit. And here's the other thing we found is that 1 year later, the employment rate of those youth were well above 75% after they were out of school. 2 years later, the same. 3 years later, the same. Well above the national average. Well above, in each disability category, well above the NLTS2 data that we have. So that's, right away I'm thinking to myself, well, why don't we do this for every student? Why don't we have these kinds of work experiences as part of their educational experience? That's a whole other topic, really. They want me to talk about core standards of employers. I won't get into that. But from an employer's point of view, here's the relevance. Those students were hired by employers who participated in this. The employers actually they provided what were considered time-limited paid internships. In other words, for a semester, the student was obligated to work in this employer's place, and the employer was obligated to employ that student for that duration. So neither the student nor the employer were obligated to continue the relationship beyond the defined termination of the internship. So here's what we found, however. 75% of youth were offered ongoing employment by their host companies. They were not obligated to do that. There was no expectation for them to do that. There was no push for them to do that. But what does that tell us? That tells us that once individual youth are on the job, performing work that the employer values, the employer wants to keep them around. And whether they were part of a disability employment transition program, or whether they were associated with Marriott or not, or whether they had one disability or label or not, it doesn't matter to the employers. If they're making job offers at that high level, it suggests that this is good for them as well. And that, again, exposure to the future workforce is what employers really value. And if youth are actually contributing, they want to keep them around. And if we could have every youth exit school, if we could have 75% of every youth in special education exit school with a job. Better yet, if we could have 90% of youth in special education have a paid work experience before they exit, just think of what the NLST 3 data will show about what youth can do and what happens. So for employers, how they see this is, and we've interviewed these employers, and we've studied them, and we've surveyed them, and we've researched them, and basically, again, boiling it down to kind of a relatively straightforward summary, they tell us that this gives them the opportunity to influence the development of the future workforce. So to provide internships for youth, provide work experiences for youth, And by the way, there's all kinds of different work experiences that you can have with employers, ranging from sampling work in an unpaid situation to the kinds of paid internships I just described. But employers are all over that. And we did a big national survey on employers who participated in various other kinds of school to work transition programs. And basically, they all said the same thing. They said, give us some people who let us work with people and help shape the future workforce, and we'll take it from there. Meanwhile, we expect that students will do their jobs in providing the relevance and the rigor and so forth that they need. In fact, one employer put it this way to me, because I asked him, after he provided several different types of work experiences to you, I said, what should schools be doing? Based on your experience with these youth and so forth. And he said, well, we should be thinking, schools should be concentrating on the 3 R's. Now, they're not the traditional 3 R's that in fact, 2 of the three traditional R's aren't even R's. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. When did arithmetic start with an R? Somebody needed some spelling. Actually, he said the 3 R's are reading, so literacy, as I talked about, rigor. Let's put the students through some rigor so that they really know how to know this stuff. And the 3rd R is relevance. How can we make education relevant to what we need our employees to know? And so they're all over that part. And there is no serious arm twisting that has to be done, believe me, because we've been all over the country, talking to all kinds of employers and working with all kinds of employers. If we approach employers and say, would you be interested in providing a work experience for youth, they almost always say yes. And we don't have to say, these are students with disabilities, and they need a little extra help, and we don't have to do that, and we shouldn't do that. But they're all over it. And then we've also done research on job development for adults with disabilities. In fact, we just published 2. We compared the view of job developers, those people's jobs it is to help people with disabilities find jobs, and their perceptions of employers. And then we compared that with how employers see things and what they expect from job developers. And guess what? They're not the same things. Believe it or not, the job developers think that employers have to be flexible and they have to be open to hiring people with disabilities. And employers are saying, what we care about is people who can do our job, and we care about people who can help us find people who can do the job. Those people that we're working with as partners in this are competent and provide quality service. I don't care who they are they represent, we're considered. Now, I'm simplifying that, but basically that's what we found. None of that's really surprising. So let me just kind of wrap up with a few comments. And I'm going to intersperse some of the research summaries I'm giving you with some of my own opinion. This is one of them. And actually, this opinion is reinforced by all kinds of recent legislative activity that also suggests this. And that is that every student receiving special education, regardless of the level or intensity of the special education services they receive, regardless of their disability label, regardless of the support they might need, regardless of the economic vitality of the community in which they live, they should expect that the culmination of their publicly supported secondary education, or in some cases post-secondary education, should culminate in a job and a career. They should expect that, and we should expect that. In fact, presumed employability is really what's behind the transition planning requirements of IDEA. It's also behind the fact that those of you who are familiar with Indicator 14, that we have to track what happens to these students. It's also behind the Rehab Act amendments, which are in the process of being passed. And the expectation is that if an individual has a disability, that they can work. Period. No exceptions. So if we're thinking about Common Core standards for youth, great. That's all the rigor. I mean, that's all about rigor. But let's not limit that in our judgment about whether students can work or not, because employers certainly do not. And so everything we do should be about this. And when I say work is good, what I mean also is that it's good for these youth who are experiencing it. It's It's good for the employers who are hiring them, but it should be the goal. So when you're working in your states and when you're working with your teams, and when you get back to your states, and I understand that some of the team members are only now getting to know each other, which is one of the values of a summit like this. But when you get back, please keep work as a central piece of that. What is the outcome? What is the prize that we should keep our eye on? And those people who have the prize, which basically are the employers, what are they thinking, and how can we make this work? So, some more sharing of employers' views and kind of my opinion as well. But employers value basically these things: people who contribute to their operation, who add value. And I can tell you story after story about youth with various disabilities, who are accommodated in various ways, who the employer would never think in a million years, in spite of the economy and in spite of downsizing, would think to let them go because they are performing such a valuable function. I can also tell you lots of youth who have had jobs and lost them. I'm sure you know some of those youth. That doesn't mean they can't work. It means that we haven't found the right job. They haven't found the right job or the right match. And the employers also, by the way, I said they don't care about disability per se, but they do care to have credible information about how to accommodate them and support them. So, for example, a youth who has an oral processing disability, just a simple thing about making sure the employer understands that if you give instructions to this person on the work site, it's better to put it in writing. That's what I mean by credible accommodation information. Or, to use another example on a totally different situation, explaining to employers why it's important for a person to have a job coach to help them learn the job first before they are fully ready to take on all the tasks. Employers don't care whether either of those things happen or anything else that requires accommodation, including those technology things that you've heard about previously in this summit. They just care about, will that help this person do the job in my place? That's what the bottom line is. So, the bottom line, it's the bottom line. There's no mystery to this. We don't have to do any research to know this, but this is what it is all about. The most important factor to employers is meeting and perceived needs. So they want to make money, or they want to save money, and or they want to operate more efficiently. That's it. That's it. Now, we've asked employers, why have you taken youth into your workplace for work experience? We've asked them that. They basically said this, but what they've also said is, we're willing to take youth into our workplace because it helps meet a specific need of my company. It helps meet a specific need of my company's industry, meaning that, for example, a hospital might agree to host students because it prepares them for careers in the health field. So they're willing to do it for that reason. And the third reason, and the least important reason, is they're willing to do it because it contributes something positive to the community. In other words, they're elevating the youth in their communities by doing it. So in order of importance, they get to benefit from it, or their industry benefits from preparing future workers, or they see themselves as providing some sort of community service. But that's the order of importance to them. And the least important is the last one. So anything that we do, and we've historically been guilty of this in special education and in vocational rehabilitation, and all of our work about disability employment, we've been guilty of trying to sell disability to employers. I'm here to tell you, it doesn't work. They don't care about that. Give me somebody who can do the job. So I'll end there. I'm hoping that what you have gathered from today's little talk is that maybe a little bit more focus on the end result of your work. What happens to students when they get out of school? How can we engage employers in that work? And how can we tie what we're doing to those outcomes? It's important for us to learn how to see things from the eyes of the employer and from the eyes of people who are going to hire the youth when they exit our schools. So if you care to, we have all kinds of additional information on our website, transcend.org. It contains research reports, it contains articles about transition from school to work, and it contains other resources that may not be valued, including, by the way, the book that Karen mentioned. If you're free to look at that and purchase a copy or two, because it's all about work. By the way, the name of the book is The Way to Work, how to facilitate work experiences for youth in transition. I'm not really, I'm joking about promoting the book, but I am not joking about the fact that work should be kind of the central thinking of what we're doing. How is it going to lead to it? Not as a process in and of itself, but as a process that leads to an outcome that all youth should achieve. Thank you very much.
We have a few moments if you have a question or two that you'd like to ask Rich. Tips? They want to go home. Yes.
Maybe this can come from a couple of people on this, but did you see any distinction between paid and not paid internships with regards to success?
Yes. Paid is better.
Always better. So yes, very motivating. What, can you explain a little bit of the differences in the numbers that you came up with?
Yeah, that's a very good question because really all work experiences are valuable one way or another. And they are ways to help you learn how to work. They're ways to help youth understand what they like to do at work, to identify their skills, and also for some youth, what kinds of accommodations they might need in the workplace. Any work experience is valuable, and actually what I would promote is a graduated sequence of work experiences, so the unpaid happens early, the paid happens later. And I would also recommend, this is totally my opinion, but I think research supports it, I would recommend that every single youth in special education, every single youth period, special education or not, have a paid job prior to school exit, because research shows that that's the single most important contributing factor to post-school employment success. Now that is the most intuitive thing I could possibly say, because if you have a job in school, you're likely to learn how to work, and it's likely to lead to a job. The research supports that.
All right, just a little bit of a follow-up on that.
You had referenced earlier about a semester of paid employment. So did you have a time variable in there with regards to its effectiveness?
Sorry, say one more time.
Earlier you had referenced about having paid employment as part of your school process, and I think you indicated, or at least I heard, semester worth of employment.
Yeah.
Is there a time factor that's more
Yeah,
significant?
actually that semester was arbitrarily decided by that particular program, that they wanted to provide, that their program was to provide a semester-long experience. So that's arbitrary to that program. That has nothing to do with, anybody can do any other length of time that they think is appropriate. And by the way, this is an issue in our education system, but if I'm saying employment work is good, then how do we work that into students who are taking full curriculum studies and no longer be available for work during the school day? And so the way to address that, you only have two options basically: work after school or weekends, or you could have summer jobs. And so that has to happen. There's also research, by the way, about summer employment as a springboard to employment for youth who can't do it during the school year. So it doesn't have to be provided by the educational system, but it's certainly an important adjunct to the education.
You spoke about self-disclosure. Do you have any advice for us to bring back to students with disabilities about effective self-disclosure practices?
Yes, a good question. There's a great resource that's called the 411 on disability disclosure, and I'm happy to say that some of my colleagues at Transcend contributed to the development of that. And it's really a workbook for youth and adults who are working with them to work through the questions about if, when, how, to whom they should disclose. If you Google 411 on disability disclosure, you'll find it, and it's free. It's downloadable from the internet.
Other questions or comments?
I can talk about it. Yeah, I don't need a mic. My question is, were any of these work experience students, was their work experience connected to what they were studying in school, as far as like a career pathway?
In the Marriott program, no, not necessarily. It may have happened serendipitously or accidentally, but that wasn't the intent. So the answer is no. That doesn't mean that work experiences cannot or should not be connected to some sort of course of study. And often that's the best way to do it if that's possible.
Great. Well, Rich, thank you again.
Okay, thank you.
Well, this brings to a close our summit. We started hearing from folks with a national perspective on research. We heard from David Conley with his recommendations of how to expand his understandings of college and career readiness. And then we had numerous conversations with state colleagues and individuals who are directly involved with Common Core standards, college and career readiness, all leading toward employment. And Rich, thank you for helping us bring this to a close. State teams, we have been so impressed with how you have dug right in there and engaged in some great conversations. We look forward to reading your exit tickets so that we know that will help inform our subsequent work with our study groups with ACES-GAS. And we look forward to hearing from you down the road as to how you've taken these activities and put them into practice. So good luck, and we hope this is the first of many conversations. Safe travels.